Hello, I'm Gordon Lang, editor of CameraLabs.com. I'd like to give you a brief video tour around the Olympus Zuiko Digital 7-14mm zoom lens. Here it is, the 7-14mm. It's an ultra-wide-angle lens designed for 4/3 digital SLRs, and I've got it mounted here on an Olympus E510 body. Later on in the video you'll see it mounted on an Olympus E410. Now when you have this lens mounted on a standard 4/3 body, it will give you coverage equivalent from 14mm to 28mm. So that gives you a pretty decent wide angle to extreme wide angle capabilities, and we've got some examples of what you might use that for in practice coming up later on in the video. But right now let's have a look at the actual design and build quality of this lens. It's part of Olympus's top professional range, which means it's dust-proof and splash-proof, and it's also built to a very high standard. The lens feels incredibly solid in your hands, and the zoom ring and the focusing ring feel very smooth when you turn them. You also notice when I turn the zoom ring here from 7 to 14mm, that glass element at the end just moves very slightly. And if we take a closer look at that element, you'll notice that there's actually a built-in lens hood around the end of this barrel. And this lens also comes with a metal cap that slips on over the top. And if you're interested in optics at all, just take a look at that glass element at the end. It's really quite spectacular. But of course the important thing is what this lens does in practice, and we're going to start off with some coverage examples. To illustrate what this lens is capable of, we're going to compare it first of all to the 14 to 42mm kit lens. That's the standard kit lens that you get with bodies like the E510 and also the E410. Here it is zoomed all the way out to its wide angle setting of 14mm. This is equivalent in coverage to 28mm. As you can see, it's capturing a decent wide angle view. Now here's the 7 to 14mm zoomed all the way in to its maximum focal length, again offering equivalent coverage of 28mm. And as you can see, they look pretty much the same. Now here's the 7 to 14mm zoomed all the way out to 7mm. Now this is offering an equivalent coverage of 14mm, and you can see it's just an absolutely massive field of view that it's captured. Olympus claims that it's in fact the world's widest zoom lens for digital SLRs, and it's certainly capable of some pretty spectacular results. You've seen just a moment ago just how big a field you can capture of a landscape from a distance, but it's also really useful when you're up close to subjects. Maybe you can't step back any further. This lens will still allow you to grab a massive field of view. In this shot we're actually really close to this tree in the middle of the frame, but still the massive coverage of this lens allows you to fit it all in along with a lot besides. Now with a lens like this you're inevitably going to get some geometric distortion when you're positioned at a very low angle and looking up or down at your subject, and you can see that here with the building and also the monument on the left leaning inwards. But if you hold this at a normal angle and point the camera straight at the subject, you can get away with quite natural looking results. It's also really useful for making interiors look a lot bigger, whether it's a room you're photographing or maybe like this shot here of an underground train on a platform. It allows you to fit in an awful lot even when your subject is extremely close to you. The Olympus Zuiko Digital 7 to 14mm is certainly a spectacular lens. In fact, we go as far as to say it's one of the best wide-angle lenses we've ever tested, and certainly it's a massive amount of fun to use in practice. But it's only when you get home and have a look at the results that you realise just how good this lens is. Now, when the 4/3 standard was first announced, one of the claims that they had, a benefit over rival digital SLR systems, was that the optics could actually give very well corrected results, especially in terms of geometric distortion and light fall off. That's when the images get a little bit dark towards the corners. Well, with this lens it really proves that in practice. The light fall off really is minimal, especially for an ultra wide angle lens, and the geometric distortion is also very low. Even when you zoom in on crops taken at 100% with this lens, they're just so sharp and packed with detail, even when the aperture is completely open at f4. So technically speaking, this is an extremely impressive lens, but perhaps unsurprisingly you'll be paying quite a lot for it. This is comfortably a lot more expensive than any other ultra wide angle lens that's available, but if you're really serious about wide angle work, it's definitely one to consider. Indeed, a lot of people choose their digital camera based on the availability of lenses, and if you're really into wide angle photography, then this lens could actually persuade you to consider using the 4/3 digital SLR system. And new models like the E510 and the E410 certainly make that an absolutely winning combination. If you'd like to see full results for this lens, more coverage examples and actual samples taken with it under a variety of conditions, then head over to www.cameralabs.com and check out our full review.